Episode 257. How will I get used to living without you? How could that be true? If it weren't for these two children... Serena's eyes dimmed, reaching out to touch her belly without speaking. Your grandpa is now old and can't lose any more. Please live well, or bless me to go away in my sleep. Grandpa... Serena interrupted his words, choking again. Don't say this. She had lost her love, her Jake. She couldn't lose her grandpa. If even grandpa left her and went, then she would really be alone in this world. They were her family, her dearest grandpa and Jake. The old man became speechless, looked at her and said softly, "Come out for dinner. Your good friend has come to see you." My good friend? A young man surnamed Henry. Polite and nice. I asked him to stay for dinner. And when you come down, we can start. He looked at her lovingly, smiled and stood up. Go wash. Don't let him laugh at you. Serena was a bit stunned, and she nodded. When he went out, he closed the door behind him. She got up and saw that she was wearing a long-sleeved spring pajama. Jake had picked it out for her. When she lifted the quilt and sat up on the bed, she felt the ground and found that it was cold. At this time, there should be a pair of big hands, giving her a pair of fur slippers, while helping her get changed. He would warn her not to kick the shoes to the bottom of the bed next time. Serena's eyes became red. She reached out to find a pair of shoes under the bed, put them on, and entered the bathroom. His towels, his toothbrush, his cup, his razor, his aftershave, all were well placed, clean and tidy. Serena glanced at them and soon began to wash. Not having eaten well in the past few days, she didn't have much strength. After the shower, she went into the cloakroom and opened the closet, which was full. 3/4 of the clothes were hers, and his only accounted for a very small part. Just when did she have so many outfits? When she had just come there, she actually started with few clothes. The outfits here were all of the new season. There were a few pieces that she had worn, but most of them were brand new. After being washed, they were quietly hung there, and she never saw them. She picked out a floral skirt suit that Jake had picked for her and put it on, but she could not zip herself up in the back. She realized that her body was already a bit cumbersome, and no matter how hard she tried, she could not pull the zipper up. His low-pitched voice was still ringing in her ear, gently and softly. Serena looked at the full wardrobe and only whispered, "Darling, zip me up. I can't reach it." However, there was no response. Her heart was trembling, and the sudden pain made her almost breathless. In the future, no one would help change again, and no one would help her pull up the zipper. No one would suddenly appear when she was helpless, staring at her ever so softly, whispering, "Sweetheart, come home. Darling, come home. I miss you." The big room was so empty that it was horrible. In the future, she must rely on herself to do everything. Eat and sleep on her own. Take showers alone. No one would warn her that she must wear shoes when she got out of bed. And no one would warn her not to steal snacks every night before going to bed. No one would wake her up, eat with her, buy clothes for her. Could she bear to live like this? Maybe. Wasn't this the case in her previous lifetime anyway? No one helped her. No one looked at her. And no one paid attention to her emotions. And then it had been that way for so many years. Now, God just returned all of that to her again. Why did she have to get so emotional and delicate? I blame you. Her eyes became wet, but she refused to let tears fall. You spoiled me and disappeared. What do you want me to do in the future? What should I do? Her heart ached and became empty. The one who had once lived in her heart cruelly pulled himself out, leaving her alone, facing everything. My dear sunshine, are you ready? Grandpa's voice was kind, testing her. Serena quickly wiped her tears and tried to calm herself down. She said, I will come in a bit. It took a lot of effort for her to finally pull the zipper up. She simply applied some makeup, making herself look less stressed. After that, she put her hair up to look more energetic. She patted her face and finally went out. Her in-laws, Carson and Nola, her brothers Keith and Alex were all downstairs gathered, and there were two outsiders who she did not expect to see, Henry Miller and Drake Howard. At the moment of seeing Serena under his rimless glasses, Henry's eyes were slightly distressed and wet. You lost weight. His voice was unusually low and husky, and Drake nudged him with his elbow. Henry gathered a smile on his face and called, Serena. Serena also smiled, which was no more than a little arc. How come you're here? Look at you. Henry's eyes fell on her belly. You must have not eaten well recently. You look thin and even thinner than before. It's not good for the children. Not only was she thin, but her pair of eyes had also swollen like walnuts. Although her face was covered with makeup, it couldn't hide her paleness. Her loss was visible in her demeanor. Emma had quickly put the food out and announced, Come to eat. Mr. Miller has also cooked something and it looks delicious. Come, Serena, ma'am. I heard that it's your favorite. It's still hot. Serena heard that and was dazed. Henry got up from the sofa and walked over to her. He said, I made you some chicken and black pepper with a lotus stem. You used to like it, remember? Chicken and black pepper sauce with lotus stem. She hadn't had that in many years. In the past, when she was poor and had no money to eat, Henry always gave half of his own lunch to her. Later on, he simply began making 2 lunch boxes and brought her one every day. Henry did not grow up in a wealthy family. Since childhood, he needed to be self-reliant. Life was difficult for him. But at that time, he gave her lunch for 2 years.